All right, guys. So, the Jacobins are the political party that's in charge in France. Even before the king was sentenced to death, the Jacobins were really in control here. So, the Jacobins are a radical political party, and their idea was like to keep people afraid and keep people fearing for their life and terror almost. And that's when people are able to be controlled. So they're just very radical. They take away some of the rights. So, like, women were starting to gain a little bit more rights. Nope, those were taken away. One of the first things that they do once they really have a good foothold in government is they reduce King Louis's power to that of a common man. So they do end up putting King Louis on trial, but they could have never done that if he was still a king. So they basically strip him of all his titles, and then they say, because you're no longer king, we can try you for treason, and then he's found guilty, and then he dies by guillotine. So the Jacobins really do take over before the trial of King Louis. The guy in this picture right here, that's Maximilien Robespierre. He is the leader of the Jacobins. The Jacobins do kind of form their own little oligarchy, and we'll talk about that pretty soon. It's called the Committee of Public Safety, but he is kind of like the leader. Quite an outfit he's got on. Anyway, I just kind of like to touch on, remember, just because we talk in extremes doesn't mean that's how it was. So remember, like, not everyone hated the estate system. Not everyone liked the Jacobins. So even though they're kind of in charge of government right now, that's not necessarily, like, not everyone liked them. Not everyone hated them. Not everyone liked them. Not everyone hated the king. Just keep that in mind. This last thing right here, if the king is right, the revolution is wrong. And that was kind of the theory of the Jacobins. If the king was right in what he was doing and how he was acting, then the whole French Revolution was not the right thing to do. So the idea behind the Jacobins was the king had to die because that made the revolution worth it. All right, so here he is. Robespierre is really the leader of the Reign of Terror, which is the era that we've moved into of the French Revolution right now. So again, same picture. That's Maximilien Robespierre. Technically, the government the governing body in charge was the Committee of Public Safety. And the Committee of Public Safety was a small group of men that controlled everything about France. They said that their job was to protect France against enemies, but it really encompasses so much more than that. They wanted to change everything about French life so that they could create this new country, really. Like, they're a government, but they're really looking to totally wipe old France off the face of the earth. They're pretty extreme with what they do. Like, they changed the calendar, which I'll show you in a second. They got rid of religion. They got rid of fashion. They thought everything that had to do with, like, pre-French Revolution meant that it just wasn't good for France, and it was an old way of life. So they were really trying to create this, like, republic of virtue and new France. And the only problem with that is it became just like very scary for a lot of people, and that's why they call it the Reign of Terror. So if you weren't extreme enough, like if you didn't talk well enough about the Committee of Public Safety and what France was turning into, you could be put on trial for treason and you could be killed. If people in the video that I show in class, they say, like, if you were standing in a bread line and you complained even the slightest bit, like, people would rat you out and you could be killed. So it's called the Reign of Terror because the Jacobins were ruling by fear, and people were so afraid that they just kept their mouth shut. It wasn't very effective. Okay, so here's like a calendar. So basically, they split the year into, it's still 4 seasons, so that's our 4 columns here. But then they made 10 days in a week and 3 weeks in a month. And then they changed how many hours were in the clock, which is kind of wild. And the whole reason they did this is because then people would know what day Sunday was. And the idea is, if you have religion, you have some sort of hope, and that's really a trend throughout history. Like, religion gives people hope. It's a thing now. Religion gives people hope. So the Committee of Public Safety really wanted to not give people that hope and make them focus on, like, this is New France and this is how we're doing things. Didn't really go well. So really the end of the Reign of Terror comes to a head because Robespierre accuses someone else in the Committee of Public Safety of not being radical enough, and it kind of opens everyone's eyes to, like, oh wait, hold on, like, you're not well. you were too power hungry. You're a little bit crazy now, guy. So they actually put Robespierre on trial, and he is sentenced to death by guillotine. So people they're exhausted. They're tired of being afraid. They're tired of not being able to speak up. They don't really like the Jacobins. Most of the people don't really like the Jacobins. Everything is so expensive. Like, they're right back to where they started as under a monarch of, like, they still can't afford the things that they need, but now they don't even have a monarch anymore. So, like, what are they doing? So Robespierre is sentenced to death, and now we have a new man who rises to power, and that is a new general whose name is Napoleon Bonaparte. So I'm actually going to have him, like, a whole another section. We'll do one on him. So check out the next video.